Ashley, you're going to record us?
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, seniors. We hope you've enjoyed your summer and are taking in these last fleeting moments before virtual school starts on Monday. So what we wanted to do today was, once again, and some of this information will be sort of repetitive from what we did if you joined us in the spring, but we also thought it would be helpful to remind you of some important items as they relate to the college application process, and maybe for some of you, introduce you to this process a little bit. So if you have questions as we're going along, please, you can either chime in or just put it in the chat, and we'll try to get to those at some point. First of all, everybody, well, I'm Mr. McAdam, of course, one of the counselors here, but I also wanted to introduce our new college and career specialist, Miss Morrell. I'm sure all of you have seen the super helpful information she's been sending out on a weekly basis through her newsletter and also her Schoology post. Ms. Morrell, do you want to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Nice to have all of you join us today. I am going into over 20 years of working with students in their college application process. And so this will be a new adventure for us as we navigate getting to know schools in a virtual fashion for this application season. So I look forward to joining you on that journey.
Thank you. Other counselor people, do you want to say anything as we start?
Just good morning, guys. I hope you're all doing well. And even if you're not out of bed yet, like Mr. McAdam said, hopefully you're reclining, relaxing, and listening to us just so we can kind of give you some answers about starting the college process. We know there's a lot that is going to be different this year with all of the changes. So hopefully this will give you guys some more information, maybe make it feel a little less overwhelming and stressful, and kind of help clear up where to get started.
And I just want to say, normally we do this in person, so it's really interactive, like Mr. McAdam said. So feel free to type in the chat box if you have questions at any time, and we'll certainly answer them. I know many of you are, anxious about this upcoming year and applying, and wanting some answers from us. So we are here to help you.
And let me just say, as we get started, Ms. Morrell has been really great about in this very unusual time, researching all the new information that's coming out as it relates to COVID and in the college app process. So we're going to let her kind of kick this off for us, and here we go.
Great. So college and university landscape is a little bit different this fall than it was in previous kickoffs to the school year. So I want to share with you some ways that you can learn about schools virtually. And there's lots of opportunities out there. And as Mr. McAdam said, I have been putting out for the past month a weekly newsletter that's available on the College and Career website for you to click on and view, with lots of virtual opportunities. To begin with, though, Naviance is a key tool that you have at your fingertips. You not only can complete many of your application steps through Naviance, which we'll get into in a little bit, but you can also explore colleges right within Naviance and favorite some schools, go to websites for colleges that you might want to learn more about. So Naviance is a key resource, not only for learning about colleges, but also steps to apply. Virtual campus tours. Admission officers are having lots and lots of information sessions, but they're also conducting tours. You can go to a school website, you can take a live tour, you can watch a pre-recorded tour, you can learn about a school and its campus, its facilities, some programs through a virtual campus tour. So you can connect to virtual campus tours directly from an admission office website, or on the College and Career Center website. You'll see that I posted some websites that are basically focused just on college tours. So you can link from one college to the next right from one site, rather than having to go to school A and school B and sift through their website to find their tour information. So I point you to those resources as well. But campus tours are available virtually, so you can learn about a school. Online information sessions. There are general information sessions about essays, interview tips, applying for financial aid. You might learn about the engineering program or the education program and content-specific, department-specific opportunities. They usually are live through a Zoom or WebEx, some kind of virtual platform, so that you can be interactive with the admission officers, ask live questions, and get answers. Academic departments are also hosting panels with students and faculty members through live information sessions. So look at the websites for the schools that are of interest to you, and the College and Career newsletter for some general college application webinars to help you. In terms of hearing from students, the college experience is certainly about the academics, but there's also a student life component that can be incredibly rewarding. So you want to hear from current students as well. And one way that you can do that is by participating in chat sessions. Admission offices are sponsoring a variety of chat sessions to help you learn about the academic program, campus life, student support services, the athletic program. Hear from things from a student point of view about each institution rather than reading it on the website or looking at the glossy postcard or brochure that arrived in your mailbox. So I encourage you to consider participating in virtual chat sessions with current students. Virtual college fairs, they are kicking off next week. The Coalition for College Access has 2 virtual fairs next week. There was just a fair last night by a whole group of Southern colleges and universities. Information about college fairs are in the newsletter, but these are opportunities for the coalition fairs next week. Over 100 representatives from admission offices at colleges will be online for you to go into breakout sessions and ask your individual questions. So certainly take advantage of those. NACAC, the National Association for College Admission Counseling, will also be offering a variety of fairs. I think it's roughly 2 a month through November. And I'll be posting those so that you're informed and aware. Admission interviews, Skype, Zoom, other platforms. You can talk to members of the admission office staff one-on-one and interview before you apply at some schools. Other schools, you have to wait until you submit your application, and interviews are often then conducted with graduates, with alums of the school. Those you don't usually kick in until full force until after the November 1st big application deadline, but there are interview opportunities at many colleges and universities going on right now. And so look at each school's website to find out if that's a way for you to not only learn about the school in a one-to-one session, but you could also leave a good impression with the interviewer. Oftentimes in evaluative interviews, the interviewer will write a paragraph summarizing the conversation that was had with you, and that information can add to your application and add some more insight into the kind of person you are and what you bring to the school that you're applying to. Next on the list is adapted fly-in programs. Fly-in programs are typically selective, competitive college visitation programs for underrepresented students. They're moving forward in a virtual format this year. In past years, students would be brought to campus. They would spend a couple of days sleeping in the residence hall, going to classes, attending panel presentations, having conversations with admission officers. Many of those things can happen in a virtual setting. In last week's College and Career Center newsletter, there was a really long list of programs. So I encourage you to look at that. To participate in virtual fly-in programs, students need to typically express interest and submit an application. Now, this application for the fly-in program is different than the application for undergraduate admission. Some have deadlines that are coming up at the end of this month, others spill over into September. Many of the programs are going to be taking place in September and October, some even into November. But it's a separate application, usually not as involved as your application for admission, but you do need to be aware that there is a separate application for fly-in programs, very different from your application for admission. So check last week's newsletter for a long list of possibilities. Virtual visits. We are having visits with admission officers just for our students, starting on September the 14th. You need to sign up in order to attend. And you do so in Naviance under the What's New on the homepage section. And we can show you that later on when we get into Naviance a bit more. Those sessions will be taking place primarily via Zoom, and you sign up in Naviance and you will go back the day before or the day of your visit and click on the link to the session right from within Naviance and can join those Zoom conversations with admission officers. I want to say there's 30 to 40 that are signed up right now. You'll see in the chat for this class, in addition to in Schoology, I have posted a link for a form for you to fill out, because I want you to go into Naviance. I want you to explore where you will find the college visits. Dickinson College is the first one scheduled on September the 14th. But I want you to look at the list, and I want to know if there are schools that are not coming virtually to talk to our students, where do you want to hear from? So let me know. So please fill out the form, either through clicking on the link in the chat here or on Schoology. I will reach out to admission officers at schools that are of interest to you. I can't guarantee they'll accept my invitation to join us, but I will try to get you the information that you need. So thank you in advance for taking a few minutes to fill out the form for me so I can help build a program for virtual visits that represents who you want to hear from at different colleges and universities. So the other thing I want to add about visits is just in person. If you're going to visit a campus, if it's safe for you to go take a drive by the campus, make sure you check with the admission office ahead of time to make sure they're inviting guests onto campus. Even if you're going to stay in your car and drive by, there may be students moving into dorms or moving out of dorms, depending upon what the situation is on their campus. So out of respect, please make sure you find out what the procedures are at the college you're going to. If you can get out and walk around, you might want to take a campus map with you that you print out ahead of time, find out if there's a place on campus you can pick one up. Is there a QR code in front of a building that you can scan so that you can get an audio narrative about that institution before you go and listen to it en route on your tour? So those are some ways to find out about campuses and different institutions. And there's so many to explore, so it can be overwhelming. But as you're getting to the point of narrowing down your list, cast a broad net, and you start to kind of sift it down to find the schools that are going to be the right fit for you, what balance do you need to have in your overall application list? You need to look for schools that represent a mix. Schools that you're really excited about, but maybe you don't have the strongest academic profile. Maybe you're missing a year of a particular class that they wanted 4 years in the subject matter and you have 3. So looking for reach schools, looking for target schools where you're pretty much a match academically, your GPA fits. If you have standardized test scores, that's a whole other piece. You might not, and that's okay. But if your standardized test scores are within the 50%, mid 50%, the 30s to 60 range-ish for admission for target schools, and then safety schools. Safety schools where your GPA and the strength and rigor of your academic program is above the typical applicant profile. Also could put you in the position for being competitive for merit scholarships, academic scholarships at those institutions. So when you're putting together your list, you want to have some reach schools, some target schools, and some safety schools on your overall list. How do you figure out which categories your schools fall in? Naviance is a good resource because you can look at scattergrams to get some information from past applicants. So that's probably enough on that for now. We're going to jump to components of your application. I'll turn that over to someone else.
Yeah. So you guys, once you know where you're going to apply, you have that list whittled down. When it comes to actually sending your application and then the additional materials that need to be sent, we want to make sure you have an understanding of how that process works a little bit. So, of course, you will be the one submitting your application, and there are a variety of ways to do this. It most often is going to be through either the school's website or the Common Application. So I will tell you, sometimes this creates a little bit of confusion, so I want to make sure this is clear. On Common App, you will complete the application there. You will submit your application through Common Application. However, we, the school, so that means your counselor or a teacher writing you a letter of recommendation, we will submit our materials through Naviance. So you can see here who sends what. Student, you're sending your materials through either the college website's application process or Common App or maybe the Coalition app. We will send everything that we're sending to a school through Naviance. That's why it's critical to us that you have added every school you're applying to in Naviance. And then we'll talk a little bit more in a minute about matching your Common App account with your Naviance account if you haven't already done that. So we will send your official transcript if that's what's being asked for by a school. We will send something called the secondary school report, which a lot of schools ask for and is part of the Common App process. And we will send a letter of recommendation if that is something that a college you're applying to asks for. And you must submit a transcript request for an official transcript through Naviance. Your teacher who you've asked for a letter of recommendation, you have to add that teacher in Naviance, and we'll go through how to do that if you haven't already. And that teacher will then send his or her letter to the schools that you've indicated through Naviance. So even though you're applying again to a Common App school, the teacher will submit their recommendation letter through Naviance. If you have somebody who is not a George Mason High School teacher, we can arrange to set up an account for them and have them submit materials through Naviance. Some of you may have asked teachers who either retired or left this past year. I know I've had people reach out to me. Miss Siegel has reached out to me. Mr. Harris, maybe one other person, Miss Tews, and I've kept them in Naviance as teachers that you can use as recommenders. So if they're no longer at our school, you can still use those teachers as recommenders. And then test scores. If a school is asking for official scores, which is something that more and more now schools are asking that you just self-report your test scores. But if a school is asking for official test scores for SAT or ACT, you have to have those sent by either the College Board or ACT. Okay. Okay. So a very important step for us is if you're applying to a school using Common App, you have to match your Common App account with your Naviance account. The video, the very short video that walks you step by step, it's posted on our College and Career website. It's also in Naviance. But the reason this is super important to us is that we cannot submit Common App materials for you until you've matched your accounts. So we're going to go into Naviance in a few minutes, and we'll kind of show you where that will be indicated. But we cannot do this. Now, something that we have noticed and that you need to be aware of. So let's say you're applying to UVA early action, and you've indicated in your Common App account that you're applying early action. When you've matched your accounts from Naviance and Common App, it's going to pull any school that you've already put in Common App. It's going to pull them into Naviance for you. But one thing we've noticed that's somewhat unfortunate is that it doesn't necessarily pull the type of decision that you're applying for. So if you indicated early action in Common App, it may not pull early action into Naviance. And so you'll have to go into your Naviance account and manually change that to early action. And this is honestly one of the reasons why we ask you to meet with us to kind of go over all those things. Because when we look at Naviance and we see UVA and you haven't manually gone and done that, it's just going to say regular decision. So we're thinking, okay, the student's applying regular decision to UVA. So it's important for us to sit with you, or I guess virtually sit with you, to talk about which schools you're applying to, what the deadlines are, so that we are clear on that on both ends. Back to you, Ms. Morel.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about a change to the application process this year. On the Common application, you have the opportunity to write a 650-word essay, but there's a new optional writing statement about COVID-19 and how it has impacted you. The Coalition application has a similar question and prompt, I'm going to focus on the common application right now. So if you feel you have information to share with an admission committee about how you have been impacted by COVID-19, then you have a dedicated space for that. Admission officers are going to know about the glitches with standardized testing in the spring. So you don't need to tell them that you sat for it, you tried to sit for it 3 times and it got canceled, whatever that number may be. You don't need to tell them about the grading policy and the switch to remote learning. That information will be covered elsewhere in your application by the counselor and staff along with the school profile. So this is really a time where if you have had a significant impact by COVID-19, then you have a dedicated 250-word response that you can write. It's completely optional. I can't emphasize that enough. If you had a pretty seamless transition from in-class learning in March to a gap for a couple of days before jumping into virtual school, then you might not have anything to share, and that's okay. Move right on and focus your time and attention on putting together a thoughtful essay, a polished activity statement, the supplemental essays. Use your time and effort to focus on those aspects of the application if a COVID-19 essay does not apply to you, and that's perfectly fine. If you are in a situation where maybe you had to supervise siblings, and so you missed some of your online classes, maybe you have a family member who's a first responder and had to take on more hours at work, and so you took on more household responsibilities, and you had a little bit of juggling of tasks and responsibilities in your house. If you cared for a sick family member or someone in your family was ill from COVID-19, this would be a place to write about a specific impact to you. But it's not a space to be writing about just the transition to online schooling and grading and lack of testing, because that content will be shared elsewhere. So does that mean then in your main common application essay, you should write about COVID-19? Probably not. You've got this space to do so. Your main common application essay should be about other things in general for most students, I will say, because you have much more of your life in terms of your 4 years of high school. You have more of your life in high school is pre-COVID-19. And I don't want to minimize the impact it's had on anyone, but they want to learn more about you than just the past 5 months. And so I would encourage you to think about using the optional COVID-19 prompt if appropriate, and using your main common application essay for a different subject matter, so that across your application, admission officers can get to know you as a person who's grown and changed over the course of the 3+ I should say, years of high school thus far. So I point that out as a new change to the common application this year, in case it's appropriate.
Okay, so when we talk about requirements for the application, it's really imperative that you check out what each college is asking for. You know, you want to make sure that you know the deadlines. If you're doing early action, early decision, regular, rolling, you want to know if they require a transcript. Many colleges will want you to self-report your grades. So in that case, you can certainly request an unofficial transcript from us, or you can go on PowerSchool and look at your historical grades for that. If they want standardized testing, we're actually going to talk about that in a little bit. And then recommendation letters. It's really, it's on you to know how many a school will accept. The minimum number, the maximum number. If you have a school that will only accept one, you need to make sure that you're only asking one teacher to send it to that specific school. Okay, different admission deadlines. So we've got early decision. That means that you apply by a certain date. It's usually November 1. It can be as early as October 15th. And it's binding. So that means you can only apply to one school early decision. You usually find out by early December, December 1st in this case. But you have to be prepared to go to that school. So it really has to be your number one choice. You can't see yourself anywhere else. If you get in, you're going. So be thoughtful about where to apply early decision. Early action, you apply early, you can apply to multiple schools early, but it's non-binding. So you don't have to actually go to the schools if you get in. And you usually don't find out until, some schools it's after winter break. This says before, some schools it's after. And then you still have until May 1 to decide whether or not you're going to commit to that school. Now, if you really want to show the improvement first semester of senior year, maybe early action isn't the admission option that you should apply to. And that's something that, we can talk one-on-one about. And then there's rolling admissions. That means you can apply whenever you want, and typically you get a decision pretty quickly, first come, first served basis. So if you're applying to a school that has rolling admissions, that's when you really want to talk to your counselor about, when your goal is to get your piece in, and we will try to get our piece in as close as possible to that date. But regardless of any options, you really need to pay close attention to deadlines for scholarship consideration. Sometimes if there's other early deadlines, priority, where you need to apply by maybe December 1 in order to be considered for scholarship. So just be mindful when you're looking at schools about their different admissions options.
Okay, so I get to talk about test scores. There's been a lot of changes with test scores lately. Many schools have moved to become test optional, meaning that if you were able to take a test, or you will be able to this fall, you could submit the scores, ideally if it enhances your application for admission, but you might not have to sit for a test or submit scores for either the ACT or the SAT if your school of interest have moved to become test optional for fall 2021 admission. If you do have to sit for a test, some schools require that scores be sent directly to the admission office rather than self-reporting them on an application. So you need to reach out to SAT, College Board, and ACT to have those scores submitted. So that's the logistic piece. Let me talk to you about changes that have occurred, more specific changes that have occurred within the past couple of months over the summer, that the National Association for College Admission Counseling, goes by NACAC, is a national group that is a partnership between colleges and universities, and help those of us on the high school side as well facilitate students learning about college and applying to college. And I guess it was just last week, week and a half ago or so now, over 400 colleges and universities that are members of this group signed a statement affirming that students will not be penalized if they don't have access to take a standardized test for fall 2021 admission. The information is included in last week's College and Career newsletter, so you can click on the hyperlink and go to see the list of schools that have agreed to not penalize a student if you don't have the access or the opportunity to take a test. So parents and students over the summer have been saying, is test optional really test optional? The schools that have signed this statement have said definitively yes. They will affirm that they will not penalize students for the absence of a standardized test score, and they endorse a student-centered, holistic approach to admission that won't disadvantage any student without a test score. So cross-reference the list to see if your schools of interest have signed on to this agreement. There are a wide variety of schools that have. Boston College, several of the Ivy League schools, Caltech, George Mason, MIT, NYU, George Washington, Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech, William and Mary, Wake Forest, University of Michigan, Tulane, a long list of several hundred colleges that have signed on to this agreement. So standardized testing historically has been a key part of an application, and I've been an admission officer. I've sat in admission committees and deliberated about the various components of a student's application. And so this year is a little bit different. If you don't need to sit for an SAT or an ACT score, confirm that your school is truly test optional, and the NACAC statement will be a good driving force for you to cross-reference that. If you do still need to sit for a test, it was announced last week that there will be an SAT test date in October during a school day test session right at George Mason. The details are forthcoming about that, but there will be an in-school opportunity if you find yourself in a situation where you need to have a test. That's kind of it about testing.
Okay, guys, so another part of your application that we're going to talk about just for a quick second are teacher recommendation letters. Hopefully by now you have one and no more than two teachers that maybe you've touched base with in the spring, maybe you haven't talked to yet, that you would like to have write a recommendation letter for you. Normally we would ask you to kind of talk with them in person. It's not really an option this year. So we're just kind of asking, hopefully, if you have spoken with them about it in the spring and kind of got a confirmation then that they'd be willing to write you a letter, we're asking that you guys check back in with them. A lot has happened. They have a lot going on. You have a lot going on. So it's always good to kind of keep in communication with them and don't assume that they know what's going on. So just confirm with them, send them an email, schedule a time to meet with them online before you officially add them into Naviance, just so that they have another reminder that they agreed to write you a letter. I'm going to get everything set up in Naviance where you can upload your letter. We'll show you guys when we take you into Naviance in a few minutes where you can do that. But we also need to make sure that you guys let teachers know when your earliest deadline is. They cannot see what we can see in Naviance, so they won't have all of the details of your applications. So it's really important for you to let them know that you've added them into Naviance, and then let them know my earliest deadline is November 1st or January 1st, so that they know when they need to get their letter in by, so that they're helping you meet your deadlines. Okay.
Let me chime for a second. Chiming.
Love the chime. Love the chime. Love it.
Something that happens sometimes, guys, is so in your Common App, you may have a bunch of schools listed, but then it turns out that you're actually not, you've decided you're not going to apply to some of those schools, but they're still listed in your Common App. And you may have even removed them somehow in Naviance, like you got or had us remove them in Naviance. But then when a teacher goes to send a letter of recommendation, sometimes they'll see a school listed there as a Common App school, and they'll try to send it, and it won't allow the teacher to send it because you're actually not applying there. And it really confuses the teacher, understandably, because like, well, I don't know why this letter won't send. I'm not sure what's wrong. Well, what's wrong is you're actually not applying there, but it's still listed in your Common App. So it's important that you always keep that list of schools in your Common App up to date as the actual schools that you're applying to, so as not to kind of create confusion for us and the teachers. Chime over.
I'm sure there'll be another one. So excited. The other part of your application is just our letter of recommendation, right? Just to save Mr. McAdam the chime in on this one. It's really up to you guys to know what the schools require, kind of like what Ms. Chesley said. How many letters of recommendation do they require? Do they want a teacher recommendation letter? Do they want a counselor letter? Do they want a total number? It's really up to you guys to know, because every school is going to be very different. So there are a lot of you. We put a lot of time into our letters. So it is really important for us to know that if you are applying to a bunch of self-reporting schools, like let's say you're applying to Virginia Tech and maybe JMU and University of Pittsburgh. And then if you go through the motions of asking us for a letter of recommendation, it would just kind of be for nothing, because none of those schools take letters of recommendation, and they don't really want counselor letters of recommendation. So it can kind of be an exercise in futility to do that, but it also takes up a lot of time. So we are asking that you guys know ahead of time. So if you know for sure you have schools that specifically want a counselor of recommendation, great. You turn in your senior worksheet, and you have your parents turn in the parent brag sheet. Those are the two pieces we have to get started on your letter. Once both of those things are done, the senior worksheet you will complete in Naviance, and it gets turned in there so we can find it there. The parent brag sheet, there is a copy of it in Naviance, and you can just have your parents email it directly to us. Once both of those things are turned in, we just ask that you guys set up a time to meet with us. Obviously, all of this will be done virtually for now. So that we can sit down with you. We can look at your answers for the senior worksheet. We can see what your parents wrote. We can ask you questions. We can talk to you about it and see what really are the most important pieces that you would like us to include in your letter, because we take them very seriously. And like I said, we do put a lot of time into them. So it's important that we're in good communication with you guys while that process is happening. And then I think the next slide is going to give you the dates of when we need those things in order to start working on your letter. Someone had asked that, I think, in the chat. These are specific dates, but the general rule is that we need all of those materials, the senior worksheet, the parent brag sheet, 3 weeks to about a month out from your first deadline. Okay, so with the earlier the deadline, the earlier you need to have all of those materials into us, and the earlier you need to be meeting with us. So these, the side on the right, the GMHS deadlines, that means we need those materials and you have booked a time with us and we are sitting down and have talked about all of that. So we have the time we need to really put the effort into your letter to make sure everything is set up in Naviance and kind of really help make sure that everything is where it needs to be technology-wise. Because we can't find you guys in the building this year, we have all of us have chased down many students in the hallway and kind of tried to find you guys or pull you out of class. We don't have that access to you guys this year, at least in the beginning part of the year for the foreseeable future. So booking appointments with us and really making sure you're in good communication with us is going to be more important than ever this year. We are here. We are wanting to meet with you guys and talk to you guys about your application at any point in the process. But we just need you guys to really make sure that you're in communication with us about what you need from us in the process.
Okay, who's doing this? Any of us? So,
Sure,
okay, so there's certain things that just come up every year that we thought we'd just kind of run by you. We're also going to post a sheet in Schoology that gives certain information that is asked on your applications, most commonly on Common App, pun intended, but also in any application. So do we rank students at Mason? No, we do not rank students. So that's something that comes up often. Our GPA scale is, we use a 4.0, and some of you are going to say, but wait a minute, I have above a 4.0. Yes, you do. So it's a 4.0 scale, though, because there's no way a student at our school could have a 5.0 GPA. So even though some of our classes are weighted, it's a 4.0 GPA scale with, and that's weighted, because we do have weighted courses, the IB and AP courses. What grades show up on my transcript? So right now, when we send a transcript to a college this fall, it's going to show your grades through the end of last year, so the end of your junior year. We will send mid-year transcripts to schools, but please understand, a lot of you are going to apply this fall, so we're sending a transcript that just shows your junior grades. Even if you're applying regular decision, that's going to be the beginning of January, most of the deadlines for those schools. So even then, regular decision, we're not going to have your first semester senior grades yet. So those still wouldn't be on your transcript. Now, there have been times when we've been asked to and do submit your first quarter senior grades. Sometimes colleges actually ask us to send those. But more often than not, if you wanted those sent, you would have to specifically ask us to send first quarter grades. We kind of talked about the transcript request. They have to, I mean, what our suggestion would be, the moment you know you're applying to a college, while you're adding that school in Naviance, or if it's being pulled over from Common App, go ahead and in there and do the transcript request. And I think we talked about the senior grade.
Can I chime in this?
Chime away.
So let's say you requested it and you wonder, why isn't it being sent? Well, we will meet the deadline. If the deadline's November 1, do not stress if it's November or if it's October 20th and we haven't sent it yet. We will send it by November 1. We promise we will meet your deadlines. We've never not done it before. But it's not going to be an automatic thing. Like the moment you press request transcript, it doesn't mean that we send it right away. And I think that was a common confusion in years past. So I just wanted to clear that up. And that's the first question on the next slide.
Yeah.
When will the counselor send my transcript? What should I do when a college says they're missing something? This happens a lot. There's sort of a lag time between when we send things, when the college is trying to piecemeal through the different parts of the application before they match everything. So if a college says they're missing something, give them a few weeks. They might not have organized all of their materials. If we sent it and it's through Naviance, we actually can't send it again. The system won't let us send it again. Oftentimes we'll call the college. They'll be like, oh yeah, I have it. We just haven't updated the student's portal yet. So just, trust if it says in Naviance it was sent, that it was sent. And the same thing goes for the test scores. I know on the College Board, sometimes it'll say, how long it typically takes for that test score to get sent to the college. Sometimes it's quick. Sometimes it takes several weeks. So make sure you look at that. Again, it's not an instant thing where if you request it, it goes immediately. And if there is a deadline and you have to send your scores, make sure you know the deadline ahead of time so that you're not paying extra to have it expedited.
Okay, so I think the next thing we're going to do, guys, is take you into Naviance, kind of look at it as you do as a student. So give me 1 second and we will go in and kind of go over a few of the logistics of how to do things in Naviance. Oh, yeah, it kicked me out again. Okay, so this is what Naviance will look like when you sign in. Hopefully at this point you guys have all seen this before and this is not a new screen. Just some things at the main screen to look at. I guess I'll go down to, in this section, the what's new part. This is where all of the college visits are going to be listed. So if there's a school that you are looking for or information that you're looking for, make sure that you come here. When you click on more info, that is when it will take you to the site where you will actually register for the different visits. So you just click the register button. It will let you know and kind of give you the details for each of the visits. So make sure that you are checking there. And I guess the big thing we're going to focus on is just how to go through the process of adding schools onto your list that you're applying to, how to request transcripts, and how to add in teacher recommendation letters. So listed in the favorites is the section called Colleges I'm Applying to. That is where all of your applications are going to live. That is where 95% of what you're going to do takes place. Okay. So when you click into it, it will show up like this hot pink bar at the top. It says it looks like you are not currently able to apply to Common App schools. When this is this hot pink red color, it is letting you know that your Common App and your Naviance accounts are not matched yet, which Mr. McAdam mentioned a few times. So if you have already started your applications in Common App and you're now coming over into Naviance to kind of make sure that everything is in the right place, you will click on this match accounts button and it will take you through the process of how to match them. Like we said, there is a video on the College and Career website and then also at the homepage of Naviance down at the bottom. That will take you step by step, but this hot pink bar should be a clear indicator that you need to work on that and make sure the accounts are matched so that if you are applying to Common App schools, whatever goes into Naviance can be sent to the Common App schools. Otherwise, it will not work. Okay. So if you want to start adding in schools, you will look for this big red plus sign button. If you're going to manually add in schools, so you would click there. And then you can add in a school. So we will do James Madison, right? JMU. Quite a few of you might end up applying there. So it's going to give you some choices. This is the deadlines for the application types. This part is very important that it reflects what you have in Common App and also what you're doing in your applications, because this is Naviance is where we go to find out what your application deadlines are and to make sure we are meeting all of your application deadlines. So if this information is not correct, we can't be correct. So you have to make sure that all of it lines up. So let's say you want to do early action for JMU. So that would give you a November 1st deadline. JMU does not do Common App. So the only option you're going to have here is direct to the institution. JMU does do Coalition App. If you're applying through there, you would still indicate that you're doing it direct to the institution. It's more about how we submit the information. So then you'll click Add Request and Request Transcript. So it will take you here where you can request a transcript. You will only be requesting initial transcripts. Those are the only kind that you have to request. We send, like Mr. McAdams said, mid-year reports, which are your first semester grades. We also send a final transcript to the school of your choice. You do not have to request either of those two. We do those automatically. You will have to include this initial transcript request, though. This next button must be new because I've never seen this choice before.
That is new, yeah.
I guess, yeah. So I guess if a school is self-reporting for SATs or ACTs, you could click this, I guess, and fill it in. Maybe. We will see.
Well, remember, on SAT and ACT scores are also included on the student's transcript. So even though they're not considered official, they'll be on your transcript.
So once you have put in the school, so now James Madison kind of pops up on your list. The deadline information we put in is here. You did request a transcript when you did that. So now the transcript part comes up as requested. Under this category where it says office materials, where it says pending, that is how you will know when we have sent your materials. So when it says pending, that means nothing has been sent yet, right? Because we just requested this transcript. Once we go in and send off your information through Naviance, this answer pending will turn over and it will say initial materials submitted. And that will let you know that we have sent all your information. If you're ever wondering how you can check if we've sent it, you just need to look at this category. Okay? Did I miss anything, guys? Do we want to do another school? What do we think?
I just wanted to mention that the idea of if a student has added schools in their Common App and then it gets pulled over to Naviance and it's not correct, the type of deadline or the type of decision you're doing, you would go into to edit there and make sure that you've corrected it to the correct type of decision. So that may need to be done manually.
Yeah, so the application, it would be here, would be where you would do it if you were changing it. And then you would just save it, and then it will update on the screen so that we know. Okay, so that is how you add in schools. So then you would just continue to add to your list. You would go through the same process every time. If you already have schools on this list, but for some reason you didn't request the transcript the first time, you can also do it manually by just clicking request transcripts, and it will take you through the same process again, okay? Just so that you kind of know what that looks like. Cancel that. The other.
Can I just? So a student ran into the same thing that we did, where like you couldn't get off that. The
school won't delete.
Yeah. So Rosa, the same thing happened to us when we were messing around with it before. What did we do? What did you do? How did you get out of there? You had to scroll down or something?
That pop-up thing that came up.
Yeah, that pop-up thing. Remember that pop-up that you couldn't, you're like, I can't get out of the screen.
Oh, the virtual visit. There's a checkbox on the bottom that said, do not show me this again. And then you just X out of it and it won't pop up anymore. But I had to maximize my screen.
Maximize your
to fit. Okay, so the next part is when you're adding in teacher letters of recommendation, you're going to scroll down to this section called Letters of Recommendation, and then you click on the hyperlink. And we have done this before, so we will cancel these requests and kind of put in new ones. So the same.
Did say cancel?
And just to point out, this is
I did cancel them.
This is only for teacher. You don't have to request us in this area. I think some of our names might appear, but you do not request us here.
Okay, so when you open this, there's a drop-down menu for every teacher in the school. If you are looking for a teacher who is not here for some reason, whether they are a new teacher, we usually have to add them in. Recently, I added in one of the ACC teachers for a student. So we can edit this list, but everyone you're looking for the most part, should be here. If they're not, just let us know. You pick someone's name who, let's do Mr. Laub. And then you have two choices in the next step. You can either click the top button, which means whatever letter request you're putting in, you're selecting it for all the schools in your list, and you kind of can't edit that at all. So any current or future schools you put in, the minute Mr. Laub uploads his letter, it will automatically get sent off to all of these schools. Okay? If you would like to have more control over what schools get what letters, you can click the second option, and then all of the schools you have in your application list will pop up. This section is really helpful if you need more help with figuring out what schools need what letters. So it will give you a count of how many letters are required and how many letters are allowed. And it will also tell you, like it does for the University of Pittsburgh, that they don't accept letters of recommendation. Puts it in bright red so that you see it, that there is no letter. So it will stop you from putting the request in. So for a school like JMU, those dashes mean that they don't require any letters, and they don't actually allow letters through Naviance. That's a specific one to JMU. If you had another school, like say you had UVA on your list, I think it has up to 2 allowed for sending off those letters. So you pick which schools you want it sent to. If you pick this one, you can include a note, and then you click submit request. And now you have requested their letter of recommendation. So if you wanted to add in another teacher, you would click add request and go through the process again. Okay, so this is how the teachers go in and submit their letters. Until you do this part, they cannot submit their letters to school because, again, it all goes through Naviance, so it has to be put in here first.
Just a note about JMU. I mean, we kind of just said this, but yeah, it may say on their website, like, a letter is optional. Please trust us. We work with JMU very closely. You do not need a letter of recommendation to go to JMU to apply to. They know our school very well, and they look at your transcript and they look at your application. They'll have a very good idea of the type of student you are. You do not need a letter of recommendation from a teacher or a counselor to apply to JMU.
If you have colleges on your thinking about list, when we did this in the spring, if you were there with us, we focus more on researching schools and how to add them into this list of colleges I'm thinking about. If you are ready to move those applications, like let's say you filled up this list with colleges I'm thinking about, we have George Mason, and you decide you do in fact want to start an active application for this school, while you have it listed in colleges I'm thinking about, that is not actually an active application. As a counselor, we could not send a transcript to George Mason with it sitting on the list of colleges I'm thinking about. So if you would like to move it to the colleges you are applying to, if you have any schools in this list, you go into the list, you check the boxes of the schools you want to move, and then you click this button that says Move to Application List. And it will take you through the same process. You decide your deadline. So we'll do regular decision. It will ask you how you want to submit it. If you are doing a Common App, you would pick that one. And then you add and request a transcript. It will tell you, again, you always pick initial transcript and then request and finish. And now George Mason has been added to your active application list as well. Okay. I believe that was all we were going to cover on Naviance. If you scroll to the bottom, that's where some of the links and forms we've talked about are. That Common App matching video is right down here on the bottom. The parent brag sheet is down here. Links to FAFSA and the CSS profile are all down here too.
You want to show them where the senior worksheet is in case they can't find it?
Absolutely. Yep. So you will go to, if you're looking for where the senior...
Yeah. It hasn't been started yet. It's going to be, okay, maybe, I'm sorry.
What?
Were you going to say that?
You can continue.
Okay.
No, yeah, I wasn't. I was going to take you through the long way.
It's a task.
But if you have not started your senior worksheet, Mr. McAdam in the spring assigned it as a task to everyone. So when you log into your Naviance, if you have never touched it before and you scroll down to this important to-dos and tasks, your senior worksheet will be there. So you just click on it and it will take you here, and then this little red button. To complete this task, you need to take this survey. You click on it and it will take you into the senior survey. The senior worksheet, this is what it looks like. It is a bunch of questions, 7 questions. Answer as much or as little as you feel comfortable. Sometimes I get questions about whether or not this worksheet actually goes to colleges. It doesn't. Don't worry about editing it to the end. This is not actually I think some kids foresee that this gets submitted somehow straight to a school. It doesn't. It is only for us. It is only for your counselor to read. So, edit it, make sure it says what you want it to say, but don't worry that this is somehow going to be read by a college admissions officer. It is just for us to get more information and get more information that we can use for our letters, right? Because there's a lot of things you do in school, out of school, that we might not even know about, but that you want us to write about in your letter. And it is amazing stuff that you're doing that should be explained. So this kind of gives you the opportunity to do it. When you are finished working on it, you would click save and finish, and then then we can access it on our end and read over it. But you'll still kind of need to email us and let us know that it's done, and then we can have time to go over it together.
So you guys, go ahead, Ms. Chesley.
Like Ms. Q said, this is just for your counselor. So if your teacher says, oh, can you send me like your resume or your worksheet, that's not for them, because our letter is really supposed to focus on you as a whole person, what you've done throughout high school, whereas your teacher's letters are really supposed to be academic specific. So they might ask you that and just kindly say, actually, the senior worksheet is only for my counselor.
And while we're here, there was a question about the length of the answers on a senior worksheet. I mean, it's really up to you how much you want to write, but the idea here is to give us enough information that we could look at this really without ever talking to you, but we are going to ask to talk to you, but just so that we can get a sort of clear understanding about, if you're talking about an activity, sort of maybe what your role was within that activity, or if you had a summer job, sort of some of your responsibilities. So it shouldn't just be a one-line answer. That's why we leave some space, but it is up to you how much you want to write. But I would say the more you're able to put there, the more helpful it is to us to have an understanding of what we can include in a letter.
Like sometimes if you want us to explain a certain situation with how you can fit a class into your schedule, or that you transferred in, I mean, anything that like you want us to explain that you're not going to explain in your application, that's where you want to put it in your senior worksheet or your parent brag sheet. I mean, those sometimes are wonderful, and we really get a lot of good information from those as well. So for those of you whose parents have already sent it, thank you. And just remind your parents to get those into us as well.
On the flip side of that, let's say like one of the answers to the questions is something that you actually have, and this has happened to me many times, where one of the answers to questions on the senior worksheet is something that you actually decided to write your whole essay about on Common App, let's say. Well, tell me that, because I'm not going to then spend a bunch of time in my letter of recommendation talking about something that you just wrote about extensively in an essay. So that's why, again, we've made this clear. We want to talk to you about your senior worksheet. If if I'm reading something that says, oh, you did this and this and this, and you say to me, oh yeah, but actually, you know what? I wrote my whole essay about that. I'd be like, good to know. No, I'm not going to really talk about that too much in the letter of recommendation. All right, are we good? So I think I've tried to answer, some of us, we've answered questions in the chat as we've gone along, but if you guys have other questions, you can either speak them out loud or write them in the chat if you have further thoughts or questions. Please take a look at the link that Miss Morel posted in the chat at the very beginning, and also it's on the Schoology page as well, posted a Google form. Anything else? Okay. Oh, Sarah. Wait for Sarah. Where's the parent brag sheet? So it's actually a couple of places. Miss Morel, is it? It's on the College and Career website, I'm sure.
Correct. It's there,
Yes.
and then also, as you pointed out, in Naviance.
Yeah. So, but an important, we may have said this already, but an important note about the parent brag sheet, that cannot be submitted it should be submitted as an email to the counselor from either the student or the parent. Unlike the senior worksheet, when you do it, it doesn't automatically get submitted to us in Naviance. Okay. Thank you guys very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you taking your time today to be here. One last, there's a couple other questions. Oh, you're saying thank you because you guys are so nice. Appreciate you guys. We should say something, well, at least I wanted to say, seniors, take a look at your schedules, because if something's whack, let your counselor know. I'm sure we miss things, and because we're imperfect people. So take a look at that, email your counselor about it. Because as you know, school starts on Monday at 8 a.m. Okay, thanks so much, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.